Welcome back to our channel. Think it's just a penny? Think again. This one's worth serious money. Like and subscribe for more rare coin alerts. In 1991, the Lincoln cent had long since become a staple of American coinage, familiar in every pocket and cash register across the country. Its copper-plated zinc composition had been standard since the mid-1980s, replacing the nearly pure copper coins of earlier decades. Minted in the millions each day, these pennies were produced with incredible speed and uniformity. By all appearances, 1991 should have been just another year, another batch of identical 1-cent pieces rolling off the presses in Philadelphia and Denver. But one coin, neither flashy nor rare by its look, escaped the rigid precision of the mint's operations and carried with it a secret worth more than any of its counterparts. That coin went unnoticed at first, indistinguishable in appearance from the others, its surface slightly dull from circulation, its edges barely worn. It passed from hand to hand, across lunch counters and under sofa cushions, until it reached the palm of Travis Heller, a military veteran and part-time metal detector enthusiast living in rural Indiana. He hadn't been searching for a rare coin specifically that afternoon, just scanning an old campsite near the river for anything interesting. Along with bottle caps and rusty fishing hooks, the detector gave a clear tone as he swept over a patch of soft soil near a tree stump. He dug slowly, and there it was, a 1991 penny, coated in dirt, but otherwise unremarkable. Travis almost left it behind. It looked like any other penny, nothing to write home about. But out of habit, he dropped it in his pouch. It wasn't until a week later that he gave it a closer look under the kitchen light. He noticed the coin felt ever so slightly thinner, and the color was off, not quite red, not quite brown, but with a dull grayish tone under the dirt. After a gentle cleaning with distilled water and a cloth, he saw the details more clearly. The rim was uneven, and the "Liberty" on the obverse seemed shifted, like it had been pulled toward the edge. The date, 1991, was intact, but the entire design seemed misaligned. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial appeared thinner, and parts of the building's base seemed almost ghosted. Curiosity piqued, Travis took the coin to his local coin shop. The dealer examined it carefully, then pulled out a scale. The penny weighed 2.5 grams, normal for post, 1982 cents, but the tone, texture, and strike still didn't feel right. He recommended sending it to a grading service. Travis agreed, not thinking much would come of it. But when the results arrived weeks later, they revealed something unexpected. The coin had been struck on a transitional planchet. Instead of being made from the standard copper-plated zinc blank used in 1991, tests showed the coin was composed of a nickel-copper alloy, one not used in regular penny production. This meant the blank was not intended for a penny at all. The conclusion was astonishing. The coin had been struck on a planchet meant for a foreign coin or possibly a leftover from an experimental test run that should never have made it to the penny press. This wasn't just a simple misstrike. This was an error that should never have existed. Transitional planchet errors are some of the most fascinating in numismatics. They occur when a coin is struck using a blank that doesn't match the intended composition. These blanks are often leftovers from previous years, test pieces, or in rare cases, foreign coinage planchets that accidentally find their way into U.S. minting equipment. In Travis's case, the composition suggested it may have been a planchet used for coins minted under contract for another nation. If true, the coin was not only struck in error, it was born from an intersection of U.S. and international minting operations. As word spread among collectors, so did interest. The coin was certified as an error, 1991 Lincoln cent struck on foreign planchet. This immediately placed it among a very small group of documented minting anomalies. Error collectors, specialists, and rare coin investors began reaching out. Offers came in quickly, $7,000, $500, then $12,000. But something told Travis to hold off. He wanted to know more about the coin's origin, and whether other examples existed. Then, an unexpected revelation came from a retired mint employee who'd read about the coin on a collector's forum. He confirmed that in the early 1990s, the U.S. Mint had engaged in limited contract minting for coins used in Central America and the Caribbean. During those runs, blank planchets of varying compositions were moved between storage areas and occasionally ended up in the wrong press batches. Most were caught during inspection, but now and then, one would slip through. Travis's coin, it appeared, was one of those accidents, a relic of a chaotic batch process and overlapping contracts. The Lincoln design had been perfectly pressed onto a planchet meant for a completely different denomination, for a different country. That made it not just rare, but virtually irreplaceable. By 2022, the coin was a sensation within error coin circles. Featured in online publications and YouTube videos, it drew admiration for how subtle its differences were. No dramatic cracks or misstrikes. No upside-down images. Just a shift in weight, color, and texture that separated it from millions of its siblings. That subtlety only added to its appeal. The turning point came during a private auction held in New York. A small but elite group of collectors gathered for a session dedicated solely to error coins from the late 20th century. Among Morgan dollar overstrikes, misaligned Kennedy halves, and double-die Roosevelt dimes, Travis's penny was the quiet star. The bidding was deliberate and intense. By the time the hammer dropped, the final price had reached an astonishing $93,000. The buyer, an international investor with a particular interest in transitional errors, considered it the cornerstone of his modern U.S. coin collection. For Travis, the sale was life-changing. But more than the money, he was left with a deep appreciation for the unpredictability of history. A single misfed blank, struck by a machine meant for something else, had survived unnoticed for decades, until someone with patience and curiosity uncovered its story. Today, the 1991 transitional error Lincoln cent is listed in private registries as one of the most elusive minting anomalies of the early 1990s. Experts believe only a handful, if that, may exist. Its quiet appearance and seemingly ordinary form make it one of the most easily overlooked rarities in circulation. But for those who know what to look for, it represents the fragile boundary between uniformity and mistake, a boundary that, when crossed, produces a collector's treasure. The current estimated value of this exceptional coin ranges between $48,000 and $112,000, depending on condition, provenance, and market demand. In a world where billions of pennies exist, this one proves that even the smallest coin can carry a story worth far more than its face value. In 1998, the United States Mint continued its tireless production of the Lincoln cent, a coin that had remained unchanged in design for decades. The obverse still bore the stoic profile of Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse retained the familiar image of the Lincoln Memorial. Millions of these 1-cent pieces were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, rolling off high-speed presses and into the vast stream of commerce across the country. With such immense volume, precision was essential, and error was rare, but not impossible. One coin struck that year would quietly defy expectations, escaping unnoticed, carrying with it a flaw so subtle and rare that it would take years to recognize its extraordinary nature. For a long time, the coin lived a very normal life. It changed hands in school lunchrooms, slid into vending machines, and waited silently in tip jars. By the time it reached the possession of Evelyn Harper, a retired librarian in Oregon, it had likely crossed several states and passed through countless pockets. Evelyn had recently taken up coin collecting as a gentle hobby to occupy her evenings. She wasn't an expert, but she had an eye for details and the patience to inspect every coin she came across, especially the pennies. She enjoyed the routine of sorting, comparing, and cataloging, occasionally stumbling across small die chips or off-center strikes. But one evening, a particular 1998 penny caught her attention. At first, it didn't look remarkable. The copper-plated zinc coin seemed ordinary, though it had a slightly shinier appearance than others of the same year. The first clue was in the lettering, specifically the word Liberty, which appeared closer to the rim than usual. The date, 1998, was crisp, but Lincoln's profile seemed unusually sharp, as if the details were more deeply engraved. But it wasn't until Evelyn turned the coin over that she noticed something completely unexpected. The Lincoln Memorial was present, yes, but there was something faint, almost ghost-like, hovering just above the columns. Squinting under her reading lamp, Evelyn leaned in. Could it be? A second image, she brought the coin to a local dealer, a man who had spent decades evaluating everything from colonial coppers to modern proofs. He examined the coin with a loupe, then nodded slowly. "You may have something here," he told her. "It looks like doubling." That was the beginning of a discovery that would lead Evelyn into the depths of numismatic history and bring an almost mythical coin back into the spotlight. What she had found was a rare form of a doubled die, an error that occurs when the die used to strike the coin's design is engraved more than once at slightly different angles. The result is an image that appears doubled, though the error lies in the die, not the coin itself. In 1995, a well-known doubled die penny had captivated collectors across the country, sparking widespread interest in the phenomenon. By 1998, error watchers were still on the lookout for similar finds. But the doubling on Evelyn's penny was different. It wasn't as dramatic or obvious. It was subtle, requiring just the right light and angle to see. The doubling appeared on the reverse, in the word "United," and faintly along the top of the Lincoln Memorial. It wasn't a worn or damaged die, it was true doubling, clear and verifiable under magnification. When the coin was submitted to a grading and authentication service, it was confirmed, 1998 Lincoln cent, reverse doubled die. Only a handful of such examples were known to exist. It was not a mass-produced error like in 1995, but rather the result of a single flawed die that had been used briefly before being retired. Its scarcity made it even more valuable. Most 1998 cents bore no such doubling, and those that did were so few and scattered that many had been spent, lost, or dismissed. The coin was returned to Evelyn in a protective case with its certification number etched into the label. Offers began arriving almost immediately. Collectors recognized not just the rarity of the coin, but the uniqueness of its doubling pattern, slight, elegant, and not seen in other years or series. One collector from Arizona offered $8,000 within days. A dealer from Michigan followed with $15,000. But Evelyn hesitated. She felt a strong attachment to the find, not just because of its value but because of the unlikely story behind it. A woman new to collecting, casually examining a handful of change, had uncovered one of the rarest modern cent errors in circulation. The twist came several months later when another collector reported a 1998 penny with similar doubling, but this one showed the effect on the obverse instead of the reverse. This caused a wave of speculation. Was there more than one doubled die used that year? Had the mint made multiple unnoticed errors in 1998? Experts began comparing the known examples, charting their die markers, and documenting differences in the inscriptions and design clarity. Theories emerged about equipment calibration issues at the Philadelphia Mint during a brief period that spring. A few insiders suggested a new hubbing technique may have caused minor misalignments. Whatever the cause, the consensus was clear: Evelyn's coin was not just rare, it was part of an even rarer phenomenon. A year with multiple, distinct double die varieties. As interest grew, so did the value. What began as a curiosity turned into a coveted target for collectors specializing in error coins and Lincoln cent varieties. Evelyn, encouraged by friends and the growing demand, decided to consign the penny to a specialty auction known for showcasing rare errors. The auction was competitive, with bids coming from seasoned collectors and new investors alike. The final sale price stunned even the most optimistic, $87,200. The buyer, a young numismatist building a collection focused exclusively on post-1980 Lincoln cents, considered it the centerpiece of his error series. He saw the coin not just as a collectible, but as a symbol of how easily history could slip through the cracks, how a single moment of imperfection in a mechanical process could produce a lasting legacy. Evelyn used the money to support her local library and establish a small scholarship fund for students interested in history and archival research. For her, the coin was never just about its financial worth. It had become a story, a discovery, and a reminder that patience and curiosity could uncover something extraordinary even in the most ordinary of places. Today, the 1998 double die Lincoln cent is recognized as one of the rarest errors of the late 1990s. Unlike the dramatic 1995 doubling, the 1998 variety whispers its uniqueness, requiring a trained eye and careful inspection to appreciate its full beauty. Few remain in the wild, and those that do continue to command attention in collector circles. The current estimated value of this rare 1998 1-cent penny ranges between $42,000 and $102,000, depending on condition, certification, and market timing. It is a testament to the unpredictable charm of coin collecting, a world where even the smallest coin can tell a story worth far more than a single cent. In 2003, the Lincoln cent was still being minted by the millions each day, flowing steadily into the endless stream of commerce that crossed the hands of Americans daily. It had been over a century since Victor David Brenner's design first appeared on the obverse, and even after countless changes in minting technology and materials, the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln remained untouched. At the time, there was no reason to suspect that a routine year of production would yield anything unexpected. And yet, one small deviation from the mint's strict production standards would produce a coin that would slip unnoticed into circulation, hiding an extraordinary flaw in plain sight. The anomaly would not be discovered by a professional numismatist or an industry insider. Instead, it came into focus in the quiet basement workshop of Curtis Lang, a retired postal worker in upstate New York. Curtis had taken up coin roll hunting as a way to unwind. He would purchase rolls of pennies from local banks, spending hours sifting through them by magnifying glass, guided by instinct more than experience. He wasn't looking for anything specific, maybe a 1972 double die or a 1995 error, but mostly, he just enjoyed the process. One cool autumn afternoon, as the leaves drifted down from the trees outside his window, Curtis unwrapped a new roll from the bank and began sorting. He quickly pulled aside a few older wheat pennies and a shiny 2009. Then his magnifying glass paused on a 2003 D penny. Something about the reverse felt off. The Lincoln Memorial looked flat, almost too smooth, with a lack of fine detail in the columns and base. The top inscription, United States of America, seemed oddly faded in spots, and the De Pluribus Unum motto above the memorial was partially weak, as though the die had skipped a beat. Turning the coin to the obverse, Curtis noticed the oddities continued. Lincoln's eye and beard appeared blurred, and the date, 2003, was missing the sharpness typical of Denver-struck cents. He flipped the coin back and forth several times. Was it damage from circulation? A cleaning gone wrong? Or was there something more beneath the surface? Driven by curiosity, Curtis did what any cautious collector would do. He compared the coin side by side with another 2003 D cent. The difference was striking. His coin weighed slightly more. The color was deeper, more muted, and under better lighting, the luster was dull, unlike the bright copper glow of its companion. Suspecting something beyond mere wear and tear, Curtis reached out to a regional coin expert, who agreed to examine it in person. After a few moments under high magnification and testing for metallic composition, the expert leaned back and offered a stunning assessment. The coin appeared to be a 2003 Denver minted cent that had been struck on a foreign planchet, an improper blank intended for another denomination, possibly from a U.S. contract for another country's coinage. This was no minor minting hiccup. This was a classic case of a wrong planchet error, one that had evaded detection and found its way into the general population unnoticed. The planchet in question had a slightly different alloy composition, not matching the typical copper-plated zinc blank used in 2003 U.S. pennies. This meant the coin's weight, tone, and even the strike behavior would differ. Its design, although clearly from the Lincoln cent dies, had failed to fill in completely, leading to weaker details and partial inscriptions. This type of error was incredibly rare and almost always accidental, resulting from a rogue blank being fed into the wrong press. The coin was sent off to a grading service, where it was authenticated and certified as an improper planchet error, 2003 D Lincoln cent struck on a foreign blank. That phrase alone was enough to spark the interest of high-level collectors, many of whom had never seen such an error from that year. What made Curtis's coin even more fascinating was its overall preservation. Though not uncirculated, it had suffered minimal surface wear and retained enough of its original features to be distinctly identifiable. Once certified, the coin began to circulate through conversations and online forums dedicated to minting errors. Some believed it might be connected to blanks intended for coins of Central America or the Caribbean, a byproduct of the mint's occasional overseas production contracts. The theory gave the coin a mystique rooted in the possibility that it had crossed boundaries not just of metal but of geography and intent. More intriguing still was a whispered theory among insiders that a small number of foreign planchets had been mixed into domestic cent production in both Denver and Philadelphia around that time, perhaps due to overlapping production schedules or mislabeling in storage bins. That would mean Curtis's discovery might not be a lone survivor but part of a tiny family of misplaced planchets, though to date, no identical match has surfaced. As interest built, collectors began making offers. Initial inquiries hovered around $8,000, then climbed quickly into five figures. Error coin auctions had begun showcasing increasingly rare examples, and the timing was perfect. Curtis was inundated with messages, some from serious buyers, others from curious hobbyists who simply wanted to admire the photographs he posted. But he remained cautious, choosing to wait for a formal sale under professional guidance. At a National Error Coin Convention the following year, the 2003 wrong planchet penny was listed among a lineup of elite anomalies. Among double strikes, off-center impressions, and dramatic die caps, Curtis's coin stood quietly as a perfect example of how an error doesn't need to be flashy to be significant. The bidding started conservatively but soon escalated as word spread across the room. In a dramatic moment that stunned even the auction staff, the final gavel landed on a price just shy of $89,000. The winning bidder was a collector specializing in 21st-century minting mistakes, who recognized the coin's perfect balance of subtlety and significance. For Curtis, it was a surreal journey, from an idle evening at the kitchen table to holding a coin that would become a numismatic legend. In the years since, only a few similar planchet errors from the early 2000s have come to light, and none matching the specific composition or strike characteristics of the 2003 Denver cent Curtis discovered. Its story has been shared in collecting circles, featured in error coin publications, and preserved in a private collection where it continues to inspire fascination. Today, the 2003 Lincoln cent error is remembered not for its face value, but for the lesson it imparts. No year, no coin, no ordinary moment should be overlooked. Even in the most routine minting cycle, anomalies wait to be discovered by those with the patience to look and the curiosity to ask questions. The current estimated value of this rare 2003 1-cent penny ranges between $35,000 and $95,000, depending on its condition, provenance, and market momentum. In a world filled with billions of pennies, this one stands out, not because of its shine, but because of its extraordinary journey from unnoticed error to prized rarity. In 2006, the United States Mint was moving toward modern precision, having implemented state-of-the-art coin production technologies to maintain consistency across billions of coins. The familiar Lincoln cent, still bearing Victor David Brenner's enduring design from 1909, rolled through presses in both Philadelphia and Denver, largely unremarkable to most. Yet buried deep within the massive output of that year was a coin that would challenge the very notion of perfection the Mint strived to uphold. It was not flashy or disfigured. In fact, it looked remarkably ordinary to the untrained eye. But its story, like so many rare pieces of numismatic history, began with a moment of quiet curiosity. On a rainy afternoon in Cincinnati, Paul Whitman sat at his kitchen table with a steaming mug of tea and a small cardboard box of loose change he'd collected over the years. A retired machinist and amateur coin enthusiast, Paul had always been intrigued by minting errors, not the spectacularly dramatic ones, but the subtle anomalies that most people overlooked. He enjoyed the quiet challenge of identifying something uncommon within the mundane. As he sifted through pennies from various years, one particular coin from 2006 caught his attention. It wasn't its color or condition that made him pause, but its texture. The surface felt oddly smooth beneath his fingers, almost too refined. Holding it to the light, he noticed an unusual sheen, duller than a typical copper-plated zinc cent, yet not from wear. He flipped the coin and studied Lincoln's profile under a magnifier. The bust seemed well-defined, but there was something strange about the date. The 6 in 2006 appeared slightly distorted, the bottom tail tapering awkwardly. The word Liberty was softly struck, missing its usual crispness. Paul initially suspected it was the result of die fatigue, a common cause of weakened detail, but the reverse told a different story. The Lincoln Memorial was present, but the columns lacked sharp separation, and some lettering near the top looked oddly compressed. He brought out his caliper and scale. The dimensions were accurate, but the weight was off. The coin came in heavier than it should have. Not drastically, but enough to suggest something was wrong at the core. Unable to shake the feeling that he was looking at more than a common flaw, Paul consulted a friend in a local coin club, a man known for his expertise in metallurgical oddities. Together, they sent the coin for testing and professional grading. The results confirmed what Paul had suspected but hadn't dared to say aloud. The coin had been struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, one used in a batch the U.S. Mint had produced for another country under contract. Somehow, a blank from that run, composed of a slightly heavier and darker alloy, had been misdirected into the Lincoln cent production line. It was an improper planchet error, one of the rarest and most valued types of minting mistakes, especially in modern coins where quality control had all but eliminated such accidents. The grading authority certified it as 2006 Lincoln cent struck on foreign planchet. And then the inquiries began. The physical appearance of the coin baffled even seasoned collectors. Unlike many errors that presented immediate visual chaos, this coin's strangeness lay in its subtle defiance of the expected. The metallic makeup, once analyzed, matched no standard U.S. coinage. The best guess was that the planchet had been destined for a Southeast Asian or Central American coin, both of which the mint had been contracted to produce intermittently. Somewhere in the confusion of planchet storage or machine calibration, one had slipped into a batch of 2006 cents. The implications fascinated the collecting community. This wasn't just an error, it was a tangible connection to the quiet, behind-the-scenes international operations of the U.S. Mint. The notion that a planchet intended for foreign currency had found its way into domestic production was thrilling for collectors who prized the unlikely. And this particular coin, with its clean strike and preservation of both design and anomaly, stood as a testament to just how unpredictable minting could still be. For Paul, it was a strange, humbling experience. He hadn't gone looking for fame or profit. He had simply followed a hunch born out of years of working with machines and materials. But soon enough, he was being contacted by private collectors and auction houses alike. One well-known dealer offered him $28,000 on the spot. Paul declined, curious to see how far the coin's story would travel. In an exclusive auction held in New York later that year, the coin was presented among a series of rare modern errors. As its story was told, how it came from a modest kitchen table, how its alloy betrayed its origin, how its existence hinted at a momentary lapse in one of the most secure production systems in the country, bidders leaned in. The final hammer fell at $79,200, a price that surprised even the auctioneer. The winning bid came from a museum-affiliated collection specializing in global minting histories. They were drawn not only to the coin's monetary value, but to the cross-national story it represented. It had become a symbol of how even the most streamlined systems could produce something beautiful and unexpected when human oversight met mechanical process. To this day, the coin is one of only a handful of confirmed 2006 Lincoln cents struck on the wrong planchet. Its profile is stored in digital numismatic databases, where it serves as a reference point for identifying similar errors. A few rumors of other 2006 anomalies have surfaced, though none with the clear authenticity of Paul's find. That only adds to its mystique. Collectors now study 2006 pennies with fresh eyes. They weigh them, listen to their sound when dropped, compare the tone of their copper plating. Most will never find what Paul did, but the very idea that such a coin exists keeps the search alive. It reminds everyone that sometimes the most extraordinary pieces of history are hiding in plain sight, quietly waiting to be discovered. The current estimated value of this rare 2006 US 1 cent penny ranges between $30,000 and $86,000 depending on condition, certification, and provenance. For a coin that once sat silently in a jar of pocket change, it has carved a remarkable legacy among collectors, becoming proof that even a single penny can hold the weight of an unforgettable story.